Okay, so today we're going to be continuing on with my favourites and non-favourites of the first half of the year. Today we are doing the best books that I've read for the first half of 2021. I have 10 books that I'm going to be talking to you guys about. I'm going to be talking about them quickly to save time, but there's no ranking system, so please know that these are not in any particular ranking order. I love them all. I've given many books 5 stars for the first half of the year, so I really had to consciously try and whittle them all down. I tried to do it in the most eclectic way possible. So I have 2 thrillers, 2 sci-fis, 3 fantasies, 1 classic, 1 horror, 1 non-fiction. And with my age ranges, I tried to be as eclectic and even as I could be as well. So I have 3 middle grades, 3 YA, and 4 adult books. So let's not waste any more time because I know you guys want to just get right into it. So let's do it. Remember, in no particular order, our first book is Animorphs The Invasion, which is book number 1 in the Animorphs series by K.A. Applegate. This is a middle grade sci-fi book and it starts off the Animorphs series. So the basic premise of this book is that it revolves around a number of children who are wandering around in a forest, and somehow through a set of circumstances they end up acquiring a power that allows them to morph into animals. The reason why they acquired this power is because there is an alien race that's trying to take over the world, so when they morph into these animals they are able to try and fight or fend off this alien species, if you will. It was an amazing entry point into this series. We really not only get to know the magic system, I say that in quotes because it's a sci-fi, but I just can't think of another way to put it. I call it a magic system of the morphing process really well. We, in great detail, learn how they came to acquire the ability to do this. Then we also learn what it takes for them to be able to transform into each animal they want to transform into, and then we learn the rules. It was just a wonderful entry point into this series. Goosebumps, book number 1 in publishing order. Welcome to Dead House. All of the books are middle grade horror. We're following a family, 2 children, a mum and a dad. We follow the perspective of the children. The family is left a house in their uncle's will after their uncle has passed away, and when they move in, scary things start happening and it makes the children start to wonder, is there more to the house than meets the eye? The book was done incredibly well. If you are not a fan of anything to do with horror, middle grade would be a great entry point for you. It's a wonderful compromise. Back in the day, I was someone who could not handle a horror. I'm okay with them now, but back in the day, I flat out refused to watch horrors after watching a particularly scary horror for me as a child. It really turned me off and I just did not like them. So if you do not want to read adult horror or young adult horror, middle grade horror is the way to go. It's got a scary tone to it, but it's not so overly scary that it's going to make you have a nightmare. My final middle grade book is Nevermoor, The Trials of Morrigan Crow by Jessica Townsend. This is book number 1 in the Nevermoor series. The premise of this book is that we're following a girl by the name of Morrigan Crow who was born on a cursed day. All the children born on that day are due to die at a certain date and year in the future, and so when we get to that point in that final hour before Morrigan is due to die because it's a cursed death, a guy shows up at her house by the name of Jupiter who is filled with a ton of whimsy and wonder. He asks Morrigan a very important question. Do you want to die? Morrigan says no, so he whisks her off to his magical land of Nevermoor, where she is a refugee over there and she needs to compete in trials to become part of a society they have called the Wondersmith Society in order to remain in Nevermoor. Nevermoor, the book, as well as the area itself, is filled with such whimsy and wonder, and book number 2 did the same thing, still filled with such whimsy and wonder. I absolutely loved it. If you're a fan of the Harry Potter series, I highly recommend the Nevermoor series. We at Mr. Francy Reads hope you enjoyed your time at middle grade station, but we're now moving on to YA station, otherwise known as a longer term as young adult. My first young adult book that was one of my favorites and one of the best for 2021 first half of the year was this book, Caraval by Stephanie Garber. This book appeared as my favorite fantasy in my favorite series video. I've spoken about this book and this series as a whole many times, so I'm going to keep this very brief. The premise of this book is that we are following a girl who receives a letter to take part in the Caraval game. Caraval is part circus, part carnival with a ton of fantasy elements. I am calling it The Amazing Race meets fantasy. The games involve finding clues, doing what appear on the clues, and then you get your next one. But the thing that you need to find at the end of all these clues, if you don't find it in time, there'll be severe consequences, so you need to run. I really love this book, and I'm famously saying, because I've said it that many times now, that it took me round the twist and back again and made me as mad as the Mad Hatter, but in a good way, experiencing every single emotion under the sun. Stephanie Garber did an amazing job with this book, and it deserves every single accolade that it can receive. One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus. This is a YA thriller mystery, and it revolves around 4 high school students. 5 high school students end up getting a detention. They all enter the detention together, but only 4 of them are going to leave alive because one of them is murdered. So their book follows the 4 children who were in the room with the one that died because they are the main suspects. This book is done incredibly well, and I cannot highly recommend it enough. I think the twists and turns were done really well. I think the characters were done really well. I'm in the middle of having discussions about this book with Jessica from the Lady Lovestead booktube channel, so I'll link her channel in the description. She just finished reading this book and she absolutely loved it. She likened it to Pretty Little Liars, and I would agree. I would say that it is kind of Pretty Little Liars and kind of Gossip Girl, so if you like either or both of those shows, then definitely go in and read this book because it was a blast to read, and I'm definitely continuing on with the series. And my final YA book that was one of the best books that I read for the first half of 2021 is this book, Game Changer by Neil Shusterman. This is a YA sci-fi, and it was just edged out by another sci-fi book by millimeters for being my favorite sci-fi of the year. The premise of this book is that we're following a boy whose name is Ash. Ash is part of the American football team, I believe, varsity team, but football team for his high school, and he experiences a concussion during a game that knocks him into an alternate reality. And he keeps getting knocked into alternate realities as we move throughout the book. I loved this. I'm not going to say more than that because any more than that is going to be a spoiler, but if you love the alternate reality trope, you will love this book. This book has received mixed reviews that I don't really understand. I gave this book 5 stars, as I did with, I'll say, every book in this video, but I don't understand why this book has mixed reviews because the complaints that a lot of people have, I just don't agree with them. I think everyone has their own opinions, but I would just say, to be objective, going off of the reviews that I've read where there are people who don't like certain things about the book, go into the book keeping in mind that it's a fictional book, and the purpose of this book is for you to go on an amazing journey, being knocked into multiple different realities. If you go in with that expectation that you're going to go into multiple different realities and just to enjoy the ride, you will love this book. We hope you enjoyed your time at YA Station, but we're now moving forward. So, welcome to AD Station, otherwise known as Adult Station. The remaining books are all going to be adult books. So, let's continue on. And my favorite non-fiction adult book is A Return to Love by Marianne Williamson. As I said, this is an adult non-fiction. Marianne Williamson decided to write a book to help humans return to a place of love. And this was done so incredibly well. As someone who is all about love. And there's a great saying out there. I want to just quickly make this point so you understand why I love this book. There are people out there who say money makes the world go round. They may be right, they may be wrong. I believe that love makes the world go round. If you can, I used to have a saying on this channel way back in the day, which is give someone you love a hug today. And if you can spread your love to others, it becomes so infectious that they spread their love to someone else, to someone else, to someone else, to someone else. And the next thing you know, we have such a loving world. There is love out there, but the world can always afford to have a lot more. And this book shows great ways to return back to a place of love. I never thought I would really highly recommend a non-fiction book, let alone a self-help book before, but this one is amazing. I am definitely a booktuber who will be completely honest with you guys, and I am extremely honest when I review books. I would not recommend this book if I didn't fully believe in it and what Marianne Williamson had to say. I went in with an open mind, thinking I may not agree with everything she says, I'll probably like some things and leave behind others, and I fully intended to say that in my monthly wrap-up when I spoke about this book. But the thing is, I agreed with every single thing Marianne Williamson said. Everyone is different, so you may or may not agree with everything she says, but I do highly recommend this book to assist the human race to just continue to show love to one another. It is really well done. I can't recommend it any more highly than that. The Wizard of Oz by Frank L. Baum. The basic premise is pretty much well known because of the film adaptation, but I'll say it again anyway. We are following a girl whose name is Dorothy, who ends up, due to a set of circumstances, in a magical, fantastical world of Oz, where all she wants to do is get back home, which, bless her, because I think if I end up in Oz, I'd want to stay there. So she is advised that the only person who may be able to help her is the all-powerful Wizard of Oz. Along the way to getting to the wizard, she meets some friends in the form of a scarecrow who doesn't have a brain, a tin man who doesn't have a heart, and a lion who is cowardly and wants courage. So the three of them decide to join Dorothy on her journey so they can ask the wizard for their respective things as well. This book is fantastic, but if there's one thing I need to point out to you guys is that the movie adaptation that I loved prior to going into this book falls very far short to the classic. If you have not read the classic and you love the film, please do yourself the favor of reading the classic. I love musicals. The problem with the film, to me, after reading this book, is that the musical numbers, which we all know and love, don't get me wrong, take out some amazing things that go on in this book that we don't get to see. There are other amazing experiences that Dorothy and her friends have. So, if you love the film and you want more from this world, read this book. The Emperor's Soul by my dear, dear friend, Mr. Brando Sando. I am an absolute lover of this guy, if you can't already tell. This is a novella, so it's very short, which is not like Mr. Brando Sando, because your Stormlight Archive books right over here are at least 1,000 pages long. So, and they get longer as they go along. So this is the opposite end of the spectrum. It's incredibly short. But just because a book is short does not mean it is packed with a full-on explosive punch. And that is what we have with this book. Despite it being a novella, it is amazing. The premise of this book is that we're following a girl called Shy, I believe, Shay, something like that. So at the beginning of the book, she is locked in a prison in the Emperor's palace. Something has happened to the Emperor that has left him in a catatonic state. And the only person that everyone believes can revive him is Shy. So they release Shy from her prison to get her working on saving the Emperor. Can she save him in time? Only time will tell. It was done so incredibly well. I am so proud of my Mr. Brando Sando. Yes, he's mine. No one else can have him. He's all mine. No, not at all. And my final book on this list is The Woman Outside My Door by Rachel Ryan. This is an adult thriller book, and I've spoken a lot about this book, and I'm just going to apologize ahead of time because I feel like this book is going to be one of those books that, just like with The Final Empire, I'm going to be talking to you guys about for quite some time off and on that you're going to either get sick of me talking about this book or you're just going to pick it up because you're going to think, dash it all, he speaks about it that much, I'm just going to read the darn thing. So save yourself the time and just read it now. It revolves around a woman whose name is Georgina. Georgina lives with her husband and son, her very young son. Georgina's son tells her one day that he has seen a woman who wants to be his new grandmother. Georgina finds this odd because her father and her husband's father are her mother and her husband's mother are both dead. So the child doesn't have a living grandmother. It does not make sense. Her husband is convinced that this figure is imaginary, and so he tells her to let it go because everyone grieves in their own way, which is true. But there are little things that pop up here and there that make Georgina start to wonder, is this figure actually imaginary? It was so good. Oh my goodness, you have to read this book. Yeah. You have to. And now for everyone's favourite game that on this channel we like to call Up. These are my favourite books for the first half of 2021. What would be your favourite books for the first half of 2021? Let me know in the comments below. I can't wait to read them. Would you recommend I read them? If you have recommendations for me, let me know what they are. Now is the time to tell me. I can start putting them on future TBRs. But in the meantime, that is where I'm going to leave it. So I'm going to let you guys go with peace, blessings, and so much love. I post videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I can't wait to see you again soon. Mwah! Bye guys, and happy reading!